Hey everybody, Nicole Brunk over here at Brunk's Steakhouse and Brunk's Butchery. I am here with my good friend Ryan Calhoun from Newport Meat, and tonight we are excited because we have an awesome lineup of information in regards to the cattle market, some menu pricing, and some of the processing that happens that Ryan has a inside look and peek into that he likes to share with us.
How you been?
I've been good. How are you?
Good. I feel like it's been a little bit since we've done this.
I know. I get so excited when it's been a minute.
A lot to talk about. So as you know, we talked about some menu stuff, some new things happening at the steakhouse that we'll kind of keep to the end for you guys. But in doing that and having that conversation yesterday, I thought what a great topic it would be to discuss menu formatting and how the brain kind of perceives things. There is a whole science behind it. And I think for the general public, I know for me personally, it's absolutely fascinating. And I thought it'd be kind of something cool to share, you know. I'd like to get into the beef market a little bit. I think, I think we can, there's an encouraging price drop.
Some trends that are happening, yeah.
Thankfully. So there's a lot to talk about today.
There is a lot to talk. What are you seeing mostly just with the information that you get coming in from Newport that you're seeing with some of the processing and
Yeah, so I mean the market is getting better. Last year was a rough one, man. It was, we saw price increases in the summer that we've never seen.
Yeah.
Last August and going into September, we just saw spikes, unreal spikes, where normally, like for someone like you, for a client, I would look to maybe pre-book some export ribs for the holidays to get them at a lower summer cost, but we never saw that. They jumped up and they stayed up. So we are seeing a little bit of relief now, which is kind of common beginning of the year, but from a national perspective, if you're at a 40,000 foot view looking down, truthfully, it's not going to get much better for the next 2 years.
yeah.
Our national team, and thankfully, Newport is part of a much bigger umbrella. And so we do have a national team that's headquartered in Houston, and they're looking at it, like I said, from a much higher view than we are.
Mm-hmm.
I think, for you can look at it from the community view, right? Norco and the Inland Empire and your direct community. For me, I have about 40 or 50 different clients within the Inland Empire and
SoCal.
Right. Well, I'm for the most part, a little bit of San Diego. I have mostly Orange County, but I can see 40 or 50 customers in different areas and what that feels like to me. Newport can see what us 24 salesmen, right? And then our national team can see what all 27 meat companies are doing. So from the national perspective, it's going to be a pretty tight market for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, we're not at pre-COVID harvesting numbers.
Yeah.
So pre-COVID, we were harvesting, cattle in the realm of, 600,000 head per cattle a week. And right now, I mean, we've seen numbers drop as low as like 425, 450.
Yeah.
Some scary
really
numbers.
low.
Right. And so obviously, like I said, the first thing salespeople lean into, right, when a price goes up, it's very easy to blame supply and demand. But I like to give a little bit of background, although that could have some issue with it. There's a bigger picture here.
Right.
And, although we do have a shortage, cattle are getting bigger. So, the cattle, although the cattle are getting bigger, we're still only selling one ribeye, but maybe we're selling a 17-pound ribeye instead of a 16-pound ribeye, right?
Yeah.
And so from a dollar perspective, it doesn't look like we're losing much. From a poundage perspective, we're losing a lot.
Right.
And so, it does have some up and downs, but we are getting better. Those numbers are steadying. We're not getting anywhere near to 600 again like I said, for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, and I talked about this before in our podcast, COVID sucked up a ton of beef.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times packers there's three legs to this. There's farmers, there's feeders, and there's packers. And when two are making money, one isn't. when two are losing money, one's making it, and it's always kind of a tripod, right? And so when COVID happened and a lot of people were stocking up fridges and freezers, right? Packers were making a lot of money, and so they were sending everything to harvest. So we were taking mama cows, we were taking heifers in,
And processing.
and processing them,
Yeah.
right, for beef because we could sell them. They wanted the immediate dollar right then and there, right? Because they could demand a pretty high number. Now we're paying for that, right? Now, because those heifers and the mamas were put through those processing facilities, we don't have as many moms, full-grown moms that can birth cattle. So we're trying to grow a herd back. And it's a long process. It's for graded cattle, the USDA says you have to be under 30 months for a grade A cattle. If the cattle is over 30 months, you cannot grade it. So there's no choice, there's no prime. It's going to be ungraded beef, which it could still be.
And most people, I don't think, know that actually a lot of the beef that they are getting is only like 2 years old.
It's about
A year and a half to 2 years old, right?
24 to 30, yeah. I mean, if you're at 30, you're stretching it. Most of the time, the higher quality beef is usually a little bit younger. You're totally right. So you're in that 20 to 24 month realm. And if you think about it, it's kind of logical, but the less the cow's walking around, the less that muscle is being used, and the more tender that beef is, that meat is going to be, right?
Right.
And so, really, 24 is where you see a lot of the higher end farms kind of fall. A lot of people don't like to hold to 30. There's really no need to. Like I said, when you can get the cattle ready for harvest, it's making weight. There's no point in feeding it longer. There's no point in growing it bigger. It's
Right.
You're gonna put it through the facility and get it sold.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now I will say pricing is trending a little bit in a downward way. New York strips we saw were actually at a 3-year low.
That was incredible pricing. I mean, we were looking at like $13 to $14 a pound for prime.
Yeah.
Where-
for anyone here on Valentine's Day, we had New York strips.
Did, yes.
There was a reason for that. And they were great strips, right? Nothing happened to the quality of them. We just hit an all-time low. And what we think happened, nobody knows for sure, but what we think happened is a lot of strips, because ribeyes were so high last year, a lot of strips were a replacement for ribeyes. Because strips get high in the summer. It's a good grilling steak. They drop in the winter. And so for people that said, hey, I'm going to buy ribeyes for Christmas, and they looked at a price, they're like, all right, screw this. Like, let's go to New York's. So I think there was a lot of New York's in the winter. And I think a lot of people bought it at a much better price than ribeyes.
Yeah.
And then once the year turned over, nobody needed New York's anymore, right?
Right.
And so that's where you see this price trend downward. Ribeyes and tenderloins were all-time highs, so they're falling off a little bit. So we're in a much better place than we were November and December of last year, even January.
I have to say that, like, even though Creekstone Farms isn't one of the farms that you carry at Newport, their pricing was almost like so aggressive. You felt like they were pricing themselves out of the market.
Aggressive as in high or
Just high, like
Yeah.
even high for what
Interesting.
the high pricing was supposed to be with the supply and demand issues that we've had.
it was a little higher than you.
It was extremely higher than usual, which was interesting. But
So here's a little tidbit, some inside information for y'all.
there you go, insider trade.
Most people don't know this. So Creekstone, who was actually bought a few years back by I believe it was either Brazilian or a Chinese company. They do all their processing facility does all the business for Walmart. And so what is going to happen now, Walmart is now building and about to open a new processing facility where Creekstone will no longer be needed.
Oh my God.
So the anticipation is that Creekstone will be hurting here in the next couple of years. Side note for you, that's probably why those prices were high.
Yeah, but when you say Walmart, because Creekstone Farms has a few different like layers, like most
Yeah.
meat most people do.
So not saying that Walmart was carrying Creekstone Farms.
Yeah.
Creekstone Farms was just cutting for Walmart.
it.
Whatever.
Got it.
Yeah. They brought their beef in, they processed their beef, they shipped to Walmart.
Gotcha.
It wasn't necessarily Creekstone Farm
Creek-
beef.
Got it.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Perfect. I was like,
yeah.
whoa, and we're actually talking a lot about just the supply and demand along with pricing, just because we have gone through a few things like Ryan mentioned a minute ago with Valentine's Day and having our menus. We had a fixed menu and we had certain items that we were putting on there. And so what it did was it actually kind of made us think really intentional about our menu and what we were going to be doing since we had our grand opening. Our goal was always to have the grand opening and then have a menu that was updated and what it was going to be moving forward. And so with that, I know that you and I have spoken and kind of spent some time on trying to refine that and make sure that it's perfect moving forward.
Yeah.
How has those, with the menu that we have now, how do you see like some of the supply and demand issues that we're having affect the menu that we're getting ready to put out?
So, I mean, right. So we had this conversation yesterday about some new items that are going on the menu. Might have put my foot in my mouth right there, but we were trying to save that for the end, I think.
Sorry. I'm horrible at that.
I wanted to be very intentional about what we're putting on the menu, right? Because there are things that are going to spike in the summer. There are things that are going to drop in the winter, and then vice versa. So we need to be very intentional about how we're pricing things, about how often we're menuing things, right? Or remenuing things. So do we want to put out menus 2-3 times a year because of those price changes?
Right.
Or do we want to streamline the menu and have a year-round menu and maybe take a hit in the summer and we'll make a little more in the winter on our margins? So those are all things that restaurants need to think about when they're menuing, right?
Yeah.
I personally like someone that changes the menu seasonally. I think it gives the chefs and the back of house a lot of creative freedom to kind of make a couple new things on the menu, new changes, put some seasonal veggies on there, maybe some lower cost steaks.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, it's expensive to print. It's expensive. It takes time to remenu things, and it takes time to develop R&D, new plates, and then it takes time to print a new menu, and all that stuff costs money, man. And so a lot of places like to have just kind of an annual menu and maybe do it once a year, right?
Right.
So those are all things that we want to take into consideration when we're thinking about price, when we're thinking about what we're putting on the menu as far as items go, and just kind of the menu overall, right? How often are we going to redo this? How often do we want to redo this?
Yeah, and it's like, as I think when you put the menu out, it's so important because you want to put high quality product out there. It's also what's relevant to the type of restaurant that you have, but then also the value. It's always a fine line between like, getting a high quality product, but then it's also a value for the customer. And so it's really almost hard to not like try and change it when you have things like that, where you know that the guest will still get a good experience and then save a buck or two, understanding from our perspective how expensive it is.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of times, like, it's good to have different options. And that's something that we talked about yesterday too, right? I think it's great to be this very gourmet specialty place where you have, 28, 30-day dry age plus, and you have some Wagyu options, but you also have those economic ones that is, an 8-ounce top sirloin that you can get for like 30, 40 bucks, or a hanger steak, or, things like that. And so it gives a variety while not sacrificing quality for the guest, because truthfully, not everyone can afford prime or Wagyu or dry age every night, right? I can't. And so you want to put chicken on there. You want to put pork on there, some of the lower cost proteins. You want to put economical steaks on there. You want to play around with portion sizes so that even in a high market like we're at, or what we just experienced, that we're still offering the guest value.
Right.
You know what I mean? You said this the other day, perception is reality.
Yes, it is.
And so when you look at something, if you see a price on a steak and you're thinking like your perception is this is crazy, you're not buying anything here, right?
No.
And so we want to make sure, look, not everyone is our customer, just like McDonald's is not everyone's customer. I don't fucking eat McDonald's.
Yeah, no.
Probably edit that effort out.
It's like people don't want to shop at Walmart,
Right. Not everyone is everyone's customer, but we don't want to cut ourselves short, and we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves either. And so I think giving a broad range, again, while not sacrificing quality, and coming up with some creative cuts, creative portion sizes, things like that is really important when you're developing a menu.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a grueling process. I think until you go through it, you don't really understand how much goes into it.
Yeah.
There's so many different aspects to it that have to kind of all come together to make it make sense.
Yeah, and that's something that's really intriguing to me. And I not trying to like self promote here or anything, but this is what you do get for anyone watching. Maybe anyone that's looking for a protein purveyor. This is what you get with Newport. We are here, and when I say Newport, I mean all 24 of my counterparts at Newport Meat. There is such a consultative approach to what we do. We are not meat salesmen. We are meat consultants. And we will help you develop a menu, and we will help you make a lot of these decisions and encourage you to kind of think outside the box and bring all of this to you. It's not just a matter of, okay, I'm just going to take Nicole's order and I'll talk to you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you definitely get the benefit of somebody who has worked with multiple other clients that may have been opening up restaurants
Right.
for the first time. And you could be a first-time restaurant opener like I was, with the first-time full-service fine dining steakhouse. And the information is invaluable,
Yeah.
the knowledge.
Yeah, and we're not the cheapest guy on the block. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Every restaurant in Southern California knows it. But there's a lot that you get with Newport.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of
Anyway.
people, I think, just to speak on that a little bit, may not really understand the difference between Cisco and Newport. While Cisco owns Newport, and Newport is under the umbrella of Cisco, and you can get meat from Cisco, and you have a lot of restaurants who will get meat from Cisco, and you know who you are. That is not us. But it is a different. It's different when you're purchasing your meat from Newport Meat. It's a different quality, higher quality. It's a different service.
And we've touched on this, I think, in a few other podcasts. But I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, and by all means not talk poorly about Big Brother.
Oh, sorry, I'm probably putting you in.
No, not at all. The difference though is, I think there's places and distributors for everybody, right?
Right.
And just like you said, like Newport is not everyone's customer, just like
Right.
everyone is not your customer. And we understand that. I understand that. There's no hard feelings there. There are some different things different attributes that we're all going to have, right? When you go to Cisco, I'm not talking crap on any Cisco salespeople, but I am a meat specialist. Sorry. That is what I do. That is what I've done for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
That's why I'm on this podcast right now.
Exactly.
Right? You can't put a
100%.
Cisco guy in my place and
No.
talk meat. So the information you're going to get from us, the consultative approach you're going to get from us, just soup to nuts is much different than what we call a broadliner, which is going to be the US Foods and the Ciscos and the Shamrocks of the world.
Yeah.
They're selling dry goods. They're selling detergents. They're selling you plates and forks and knives and sugar. You have to be so, not even well versed, but there's just so many things that you have to sell. You're not necessarily an expert on everything.
Mm-hmm.
You will have your niche, but it's just a much broader thing. I am a specialist at one particular thing. And so a lot of our clients, they have a meat person, and they have a produce person, and they have a cheese person, and they will have a broadliner for dry goods and other things like that. But they have all of their specialists because it's fine dining or because it's a little bit higher end.
Right.
Not everyone will have that. A lot of people do just go the Cisco or the broadline route. But luckily for us, we're here and you don't.
Yeah, and for sure too, because I think it could be confusing to say that, like, Newport meat is not the cheapest, but the thing with that is that it's not that that's what makes our meat expensive or eating at Brunk's expensive or more expensive
No.
than what you would think is somewhere else. So just to explain to the audience a little bit, so you kind of have an understanding of that, is because it is a farm specific, brand specific product that you guys carry. It's a higher quality.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it is that for some places that may choose to do Cisco, we choose to have a farm specific program that
Yes.
is going to perform better and is a higher quality, has proprietary feed and a lot of other things like that. So that is why when you go back to the menu piece of it, when we're talking about it, it is so much work to put into make sure that you are getting the right portion sizing, because portion sizes can affect what the pricing is. And we, of course, want to make things affordable, but we still want to give that quality product. And so it just depends on the kind of restaurant you are. Bronx here, we love Newport meat because of what we get to give to you guys and the quality
Yeah.
that you get, and then also the value on the pricing that we work so hard on putting in the menu.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's not expensive just because it's Newport, right? It's expensive because it's, or I should say more expensive because of the quality they're getting. You are getting some of the highest quality items out,
Yeah,
right?
the best.
And yeah, and it's funny, like we've touched on portion sizes now a little bit. You know, there's one of my biggest clients, you know, we New York's got sky high last year. You know, for I don't know, it had to have gone up. I'm not going to disclose our cost, but they were getting some portion cut prime New Yorks, and you know, we were cutting them at 16 ounces, and they jumped up, they got jacked up 20-25%. Now the restaurant never changed their menu price. What we discussed was maybe instead of a 16 ounce, we go to a 14 ounce New York. And we played around with that. We gave them some samples. We set, you know, we wanted to see how it would eat for them. And so there's things like that that we can kind of do and play around with, that instead of just raising your prices, because unfortunately the beef market went up and your price went up, we can play around with some portion sizes. Maybe we can go from an upper choice to a full choice program. Maybe we, you know, just suck it up and you know, don't make as much money and try to help your customer out for a little bit. There's all sorts of different ways of navigating a high beef market, and that's what we're here to help with.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that you touched on something too, is that you're not always trying to make, you know, your margins or profit margins on every single item. I mean, there's someone that you're not going to make any money on, or you're choosing not to because you want the, like sea bass. I mean, that's so expensive. You're not really making a lot of money when you put sea bass on the menu, but you have to have it if you are a steakhouse because it's traditional. And so you got to really be intentional and pick and choose, you know, what you're doing with that.
For sure. Yeah. And so, yeah, kind of diving in, I think something really that I wanted to talk about today, and that was really kind of, it just always intrigues me and piques my interest, is like when we talk about menu development and how people read menus and how we kind of format menus. And so it's really interesting to me when you open a menu, or even if you have a one pager, right? The human brain will always go, if you ever notice, if it's not a one pager, right? But on your menu, whoever designed your menu, maybe it was unintentional, maybe it was not, but Bronx is on the top left corner. And so the human's eye will always go to that top left corner. And you'd think it'd go down like a book, right? And then go left, but it won't. You'll go top left, you'll go bottom right, you'll go top right, you go bottom left.
Wow.
Yeah. And so if you ever look at menus, you will always see your higher priced items kind of in those areas where your eyes attract more. It's very, very intentional. I don't know why our brains do this, but if you look at a menu, yeah, that's where you're going to see it.
It's just the behavior. Yeah, that's very interesting that they know exactly where your eyes go, you know. And I think too, like even when you talk about, you know, where your eyes go when you're looking at the menu, I think like even the pricing that you choose to use as well.
For sure.
It's like, you know, if you're going to be doing it, like if everything is $99 or not 99, but ends in like an even number or odd number or, you know, so on and so forth. But it's, I know you have a preference, right?
For all those listeners out there, I am OCD to the max. I like even numbers. Yeah. And you'll see a lot of people go away from the 99s, the $19.99, the $20.99, $29.99.
Yeah.
I don't think it's needed, right? I think grocery stores still use a little bit of that. But I think restaurants have kind of moved in a way where it's just, you know, you'll see $10.
Yeah, $22. Right. You're not trying to get to 23 by doing $22.99.
Yeah. You know, if you're going, you know, and there are reports and like there is science behind the number 9. And obviously like going 29 instead of 30.
Right.
Obviously putting a 2 in front of it your brain will register obviously that it's a better value. Not that the dollar's going to break anybody, right? But sometimes $29 or $39 feels better than 30 or 40.
100%.
So
Feels better, looks better, everything.
Yeah.
makes your food taste better
I said,
too.
I like the even numbers. So I'll either going down to 8 or I'm going up to 10.
Yeah. For sure.
The other thing that's really interesting that I don't know if a lot of people notice, but once I say it, they will. There are colors that the brain registers to, like when you look at colors, your brain will tell you like you're hungry or that's what you want for food. So if you think about the colors yellow and red, right? And you think about all these fast food chains now. In-N-Out, my favorite.
Yo, you love it.
I love In-N-Out. Carl's Jr.,
Yeah.
McDonald's, Wendy's,
Canes. Hardee's.
all of them.
Yep.
All of them.
Jeez.
I don't know why.
Freddy's.
I don't know why yellow and red registers hunger for us, but it does. And there again, another science, another kind of
Study.
study
Yep.
that triggers our brains to make us think that we want food or we're hungry, right?
It's also like that messaging. I think that even they do that sometimes in commercials or things where they kind of put these like hidden messages, and not hidden messages, but it'll make you kind of leave or walk away from either watching a commercial with the thought of wanting to get something, and it's like slipped in there and you have no idea. It's like hiding in plain sight, and all of a sudden you're craving something and you're like, what the hell? I really want that.
Like the homemade cookies at an open house, right?
So you want to buy the house because you felt like you were at home.
Yeah.
Gosh,
I love that type of stuff. It's so interesting to me
great.
when we talk about like how your brain works and what registers on a menu,
Yeah.
or what makes you hungry.
It's all relevant.
Yeah, and so there's books about this stuff. You can go down a rabbit hole really on this, but those are all things that I really think about and I try to incorporate when we're talking about menus, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about, I know the easy thing, for people is to say, here's our starters, here's our soups and salads, and then here's our entrees and here's our sides. And that's yes, a very common like way to plan a menu. But if you're actually trying to maximize, and I don't mean take advantage of people, but maximize profitability, and you want people to see things in a specific way, I want to be very intentional about where things are on a menu.
Right.
And so I don't want to just put appetizers at the very top, right? I want to put, I want to put the things that I want people to try that we're kind of known for, right? Maybe like our A5 appetizers that we're going to put on the new menu.
Oh, dropped a hint right there.
Maybe, a side dish that might be new or a side dish that might be a favorite, but we want to be very intentional when we give that consultative approach, and when we're talking about menu formatting, we want to be very intentional how we design menus, right? And that's just kind of what we were talking about when we were going through the menu.
Yeah, and I know you're big too, just like not even on like the design of like the menus, but I think it's even from the server aspect of like the guest experience. When you think of like new businesses that are coming up and they're really successful, it's because not only it's like when you talk about different studies and developments that happen when you look at places that you go and eat and they maybe not have the best food, but their customer service is fantastic. And so even so, if food was whatnot, you would still go back because you had such a great experience.
Yes.
And I think that even for us with our servers who are going through and talking about, the menu and what we have on it and the product and what we're carrying, it's like we want to try and give both, right? Not only just the highest quality product, but then also the best guest experience with discussion of walking them through, kind of taking them through the journey of the menu and the story.
1,000,000%. And there's a lot of studies on this. Good service will trump bad food
Every day.
almost all the time.
Yeah.
Good food cannot protect bad service.
No.
You have to have good service. And I think part of my job, and there's someone at Newport, I'll say his name, Chuck McDaniels. Someone once called
Hey,
him, Chuck's
Come
the
on
man.
down.
Chuck McDaniels has been in Newport Meat. God, he's not even really too old. He's got to be in his 50s, I think. He's been in Newport for 30 plus years. The guy's a machine. He is probably our number one, if not our number two salesman. He just, someone that wasn't even at our company, a competitor of ours that I know, I keep in touch with, gave Chuck when we were talking about Chuck, he said Chuck is the hardest working man in food service. And I'll never forget that. A competitor called Chuck the hardest working man in food service. So, nonetheless, Chuck instilled something in me. One of his clients is Pebble Beach. Everyone knows Pebble Beach up in Northern California, famous golf course. He was driving up to Pebble Beach, which is not a short distance for us here in Southern California, to give a Meat 101 class. And I said, Chuck, what the hell is that? And he goes, I do a full day training with front of house staff to go over what products they're using, where the farms are located geographically, what those cattle are eating, how much age we're putting on. He does a whole training for a full day with the entire staff. And that is the type of service that I think we want to strive for, right?
And that's why people talk about him. Because, right? Because it's like you're
Chuck
having...
McDaniels.
Yeah, because of Chuck McDaniels.
Yeah.
That is great. Yeah.
And so I think it's really important. I think, like I said, for me, customer service, I learned this at my job previous to Newport. Anyone can sell high-end meat. Anyone, there's steakhouses all over the place.
Yeah.
But service will continuously bring people back. And so I implore you, I implore everybody, really kind of hone in on that. At Newport, we're happy to do those Meat 101 classes. I've watched Chuck do them now. I love doing them with customers. I think they're invaluable. And it's just, it will help a business tremendously.
Yeah, and I think even the the customer service, but I think for business owners and if you are looking to open a business or you have a business and you're trying to expand or whatever it might be, is always knowing your story, where you came from and letting your staff know that story and being able to share that with your customers, because I think that's important too.
For sure.
And it's people want to see people succeed, I think, and so success stories are really nice to hear about or talk about. I know some people are interested when they come here how Brunk started and everything else. So,
speaking of success stories, how successful was Valentine's Day for you? We haven't spoken since then. I know you touched on the prefix menu. Was that received well? Was it not received well? What was the experience?
We did have some people who were coming in that were not prepared for the prefixed menu.
Okay.
We did not get it out there soon enough to talk about the prefixed menu.
Marketing-wise?
Marketing-wise, I think next year we'll be able to talk about it a little bit more.
Gotcha.
And so, but yeah, I think overall it was really good.
For the people that did dine, was received pretty well?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so going into we did a grand opening, right? How was that, by the way?
Grand opening was fantastic. We had a really good turnout.
Okay.
We had Presley Tennant who came in to sing the national anthem, which was great.
I was there for that.
City
She
officials, she is
gorgeous voice.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. She does a lot here at Silver Lakes and does some of the boots in the park. So she'll do the national anthem for that, and so that's really nice.
Yeah,
but
she had some pipes.
Yeah, I mean, she's great. She's an up-and-coming country music star, local Narconian, supports local businesses for grand opening. So we were super stoked to have her. And I mean, I think that a lot of the city officials came out. We got to do some of the certificates and the ribbon cutting and a lot of things. So it was a great turnout. Yeah.
Very cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
So we're done with Valentine's Day now.
Yes.
We're done with the grand opening now.
Yes.
So what is the next thing on the horizon? What do we have coming up?
We are excited because we are putting out a brand new menu that we have been planning on after our grand opening. We were going to try and do it before to have it so it was on the day of, but we wanted to make sure that we had everything right. So we're letting it kind of hang over for a couple days after.
Okay.
But we have a brand new menu with new items, new price points as well. But I think that our customers are going to be very happy when they see some of the items.
Should we talk about some new items?
I think we can talk about it. I'll let you go into it because I know that you have some ones you're
something
super
I was
excited
really
about.
convicted in.
Okay.
Man, we are going to have a good pork chop.
A pork chop.
A pork chop.
Talk about it.
What kind of steakhouse are we if we don't have a damn pork chop on the menu?
And who makes that pork chop?
You gotta give me a second.
Sorry.
Salmon Creek Farms pork chop. So you guys already used their slab bacon for the kind of famous candied slab bacon appetizer. You put it on the wedge salad. It's a fantastic farm. Allison Solomon, she's local. Her grandfather started it. Salmon Creek Farms is a farm kind of up in the Idaho, Montana region. It does kind of go into the southern Canadian states, but their pork is fantastic. They are, just to give you a quick little background on Salmon Creek. The hogs are raised by Quakers. The colonists are called Hutterites, and these are folks that, if you can kind of think, the way they describe themselves is Amish with technology. So if you can think about like Amish, they make all their own clothes. Within their colonies, they have their own mechanics, and they build their own homes, and they grow all their own crops, and it's just this really kind of self-sustaining process. And in doing all of this, they raise not only pork but cattle and chickens and some other things. But these people are 10th generation pork farmers. They are the absolute best at it. I've never had anything really like Salmon Creek as far as pork goes. It is a Duroc bred pork with a crossbred, with a white line crossbred. So the mama's a white line. The father is a full Duroc. The reason they do that is white lines, a couple reasons. One, they give large litters, which is great for business.
Yes.
But they're much more nurturing mothers. Sadly, some pigs, some breed of pigs can get a little aggressive. Piglets will get neglected. Things like that. Pigs can get, depending on the type of breed, but they can get a little aggressive with piglets, and sometimes they die. So the white line it's a really good nurturing, high litter. It's a very good crossbreed that they do, and they've been doing it forever. A lot of people have simulated what they do, and so that just kind of tells you they're doing something.
They're doing something right. Yeah.
But it is such a fantastic pork.
I've had their pork, and I'm telling you, I mean, from their St. Louis ribs, the pork belly, even the slab bacon, like you'd mentioned, is fantastic. And
the pork belly is unreal. The pork belly is what Allison will always say is the middle of the plate pork belly. And so what she means by that is, like, sometimes you can get overly, and pork belly is obviously what you make bacon out of, but pork belly, you can get over fatty sometimes where it's all fat. This is a lean to fat ratio is fantastic. You can eat it as a center of the plate protein, right? So you've probably seen that with your slab bacon, and that just translates throughout the whole pig. The pigs are a little smaller, so when you talk about ribs, you'll get some smaller ribs. But we're gonna have a really nice Frenched pork rib chop on the menu. I'm not gonna really disclose what's gonna come on the plate with it. But I've talked to a chef, and he's got some really cool ideas, and I am stoked
to
excited. Have this freaking pork chop on the menu.
I'm telling you, you guys, locals who do come in and eat here at Brunk's, I think you're going to be really happy with the pork chop and some of the other things that we got on there as well.
And back to what we were saying earlier, a pork chop is a great item that's a lower cost protein, right?
Yep.
So you're never going to have to pay $50 or $60 for a pork chop, right? You can still get a really healthy, nice 14, 16 ounce pork chop, really nice, thick, double cut chop. That's a relatively low price point, right? $30-$40.
Yeah.
And it'll leave you filled, if not taking home leftovers.
Oh yeah, and a lot of people love it. And if I didn't mention it too at the beginning of the introduction for the podcast, we do film live here over at the restaurant.
Yeah.
We have some larger parties that are by us, so if you do hear a little bit in the background, I just want to let the audience know. But we want to do this so everybody gets the live experience of us filming. It's kind of cool because they get to be part of the action, and then we also get to have kind of live action going on around us, and it's something that was different from how we started, but have leaned into this and really enjoy it. So I just wanted to give some context to that. But in addition to the pork chop, we also have.
I mean, I got some favorites. Do you want to give what was your favorite that we talked about yesterday?
I
don't want to take all the credit here. Let's go back and forth on this.
Yep. I enjoyed, I think it's some of the smaller things and not so much even leaning into the protein, but when you look at like a menu and you have a steakhouse, there are like the traditional items that you look at, having on there, whether if it's serving bread or having potatoes and having, a cheese bread that you offer. During our soft opening, I think that was probably some of the biggest feedback that we got was that we didn't have some of those key things that I think some of our older guests were looking for, right?
Yeah.
And looking forward to having. And so when we built the menu and we did R&D and we looked at wanting to have an outstanding menu with high quality product, we wanted every item to be craveable. And so the steaks speak for themselves because of what they are. But when you look at getting into like your side dishes and some of the other things that like are your appetizers and everything else, you really have to find a way to set yourself apart from like some of the other places that are doing just the same thing across the line in different places. And so we, I felt like did a good job with kind of redefining what was craveable and what wasn't. Like I literally want somebody to have the Brussels sprouts and go home and be like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about those Brussels sprouts. I want to go back in 2 days from now and I want to get them again when I'm, in the area.
Our producer's pointing at himself right now.
I know.
He loves them. I can vouch for those. Those Brussels sprouts are pretty craveable.
Yes, and it's got like it's like the candied pecans in there that are really good.
It's got
the balsamic glaze is fantastic. So
they're nice and crispy.
Yep.
It hits a lot of different notes, and it really does work for me.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, same thing with the calamari. So I would say we're adding our baked potato on there. We're having a cheese bread. We now serve bread with our dinner. You mentioned the pork chop. We're kind of changing how we're adding some of the Japanese A5 in there.
Yeah.
And so that was one I really liked because I felt like that we redefined it and made it to where it was workable and then also price appropriate.
Yeah, and so that again, that's a perfect segue. I shouldn't say segue because we're kind of bouncing back and forth between the two. But when we were talking about it, I think initially you had A5 on the menu.
We did.
And then it may have been perceived a little pricey. And I think by offering two different sizes, we're going to put it back on the menu. It kind of in a different format, though. I think we're going to have a 3-ounce portion as kind of a more appetizer, or a 6-ounce portion, maybe for a larger party, or for someone that might want it for an entree.
All right.
And that 3-ounce portion, I think we're selling it for somewhere around $50. But I think it's not the sticker shock of A5, right? It's not $100. So I think a 3-ounce portion, it's extremely rich. You don't really need 10 or 12 ounces of it. And so to have something really delicate on the menu without this large sticker price, I think is great. It'll give people an opportunity to try it. And I think it puts you in kind of an upper echelon, a level that not too many other steakhouses, compete with. I don't know how many people have A5 on the menu. I can probably count 3 or 4.
Yeah.
California wide, off the top of my head. But I think it kind of sets you apart a little bit.
Absolutely.
And then another one I wanted to talk about was the Snake River. You had Snake River New Yorks and ribeyes.
Yep.
And I think the ribeye, we're going to go, instead of having a whole ribeye, right? That's 16 ounces, the cap on ribeye, we're going to do a cap off ribeye.
Yeah.
We're going to do a really cool, we're going to call it a ribeye medallion. And for the folks at home, if you can think of a cap off ribeye, it's going to look almost like if you know what a Manhattan, New York is, or a filet. It's going to be a little, you're not going to have the fat cap that a ribeye normally would, but it's going to eat just like a ribeye. And I think the presentation of this is going to be really nice. It's going to be a little smaller in diameter, a little thicker on the plate. You get a little more height. And I think it'll be well received. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think we also, just kind of leaning in with some of the Wagyu, is that we originally had 2 tomahawks on the menu. We had a prime and a Tajima Australian Wagyu tomahawk.
Yeah.
I think we looked at the price point and we realized that for the value, right, we're going with the Tajima and taking away the prime tomahawk, but we're offering a cowboy. And so you kind of still get some of the benefits.
You want to take the opportunity to explain the difference between a tomahawk and a cowboy?
Yeah, I mean, a cowboy and a tomahawk are basically a ribeye. It comes from a ribeye loin, but it just depends on how it's processed when you're removing the bone or how it's cut. Your tomahawk's going to have the elongated bone that kind of comes out. Your cowboy has the Frenched end part of the bone.
Yeah.
Both of them are cut in between the knuckles, so you still get that 2.5-inch cut. And so it is a ribeye, and it's just same thickness. One's a cowboy, one's a tomahawk, one has a long bone. And
So what
one
you're
is short.
saying is it's a tomahawk with 9 inches cut off the bone.
Yes, and it's a lot cheaper. It's a value. Back to that value. That's what we're talking about. It's so important. But
Yeah, and so yeah, exactly. And that's so. Here's a perfect example for our viewers and that consultative approach, right? We had a tomahawk on the menu. It was a 48-ounce tomahawk. It was prime, and it was $175. So what we did is we went from a tomahawk to a cowboy. So we took 9 inches off the bone, which saves weight when we're selling it, right? And then we went from a prime to an upper 1/3 choice and went to the double R signature line.
yes,
And so in doing those moves, we're saving our guest, and we're going from a 48 ounce to a 40 ounce.
Right.
So it's still extrememely shareable. 40
Yes.
ounces is over 2 pounds. We're talking almost 2.5 pounds.
right.
But we're going from $175, I think, to $125.
Yeah.
So we just knocked $50 off that thing.
Big
and all
difference.
you guys are losing is about 8 inches on a bone.
You're just losing 8 inches. Sorry, I had to. No way I was getting out of that and not saying it.
You got me.
I did get you.
Yeah, that's a really exciting change. That's going to be a cool one, and I think well received. Again, something that we're able to, on the going from the tomahawk to the cowboy, and then going from the full ribeye on the Snake River Farms to the ribeye medallion.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think what else. And then
We're
the
doing-
A5.
yeah, the
we're
A5.
actually reducing our menu prices a lot.
Right.
So
Yes.
yeah,
There might be one or two that do go up that are favorites.
there is.
that we want to talk about because
So-
we were losing our ass.
Yeah, so I think the biggest ones when we started kind of running through the menu, at Newport Meat we do a lot of portion cutting for our clients. One of the things you do a lot in house,
Yeah.
just because you have butchers employed at the butcher shop, you have butchers employed here. You guys have the kind of knowledge and know how to do that. But one of the ones that we do portion cut for you is the porterhouse.
Yeah.
And so I think initially you started bringing in the whole short loins and you were cutting them in house. And so in doing so, I think you were able to save a little bit of money. We weren't selling the New Yorks as much as the porterhouses. So when we started portion cutting them for you, I'm sorry, there was a little bit of a price adjustment.
Yeah.
And we weren't making a great margin on it.
No, and I
So-
think with the short line, we were getting stuck with the T-bones.
Yes.
And so that was like a problem because we couldn't sell them over at the butchering.
Are always the hardest ones to
I
sell.
know. But
So just for our viewers, I am sad to say, the porterhouse I think is going from 90 to 140.
yes.
But that being said, it is a shareable steak. It is 32 ounces. It is 2 pounds.
Yeah.
It's a shareable steak. And when you break it down, $140 for 2 people, $70 for a porterhouse steak at Brunk's. Not a bad deal at all.
Not at all. And still less than what people are charging everywhere else. I want people to keep that in mind, is that we are very intentional, that we make sure that our pricing is less than other places and our quality is higher.
Yeah.
I want the grading and along with the quality as well. And I think that the other thing that we added was a sea bass. I touched on that just like a little bit, is that we are adding that because right now we've had the shrimp scampi, we've had the lobster tail, and we've had the salmon. And so we are adding the Chilean sea bass.
I think it was a consensus with the group, right? With
Yes.
your chef and management team and everyone that it's pretty common for a steakhouse to have sea bass.
Yeah.
We wanted to add another fish option just for again, kind of a larger variety of what we can offer our your patrons. Sea bass is one of those craveable, really buttery, flaky. It's an
Melts in your
awesome
mouth.
fish,
Yeah.
and it belongs on the menu.
On the menu. Yeah, we gotta do that. Yeah, and then just so you guys know too, that we do listen to the feedback. One of the things that we heard a lot during the soft opening stages was that our butters and condiments, or the kind of just, we had a plethora of different butters that we were charging $6 per pop for. And we looked at it.
You do have a lot of accompaniments.
Accompaniments, yeah, thank you. And so we got rid of that. We got rid of those.
Okay.
Yep. And we only have, I think, maybe
A few.
a few. Yeah. And so those.
Hopefully you didn't get rid of that chimichurri. The chimichurri is really good. Okay.
Chimichurri. It's got to stay because the hanger. But we have I think we have the truffle butter, which is important because
Okay.
we sell the dry age truffle, and the dry age pairs nicely because of the mushroom crust on the outside of the dry age, so that's really good. And then we have I think like one or two others, but we don't want, and the price went down. So even, instead of it being $6, it's $3.
Okay.
And so we're, again, back to that being very intentional with what we're doing and giving the value for our customers.
Right on.
Yeah.
So I think the last thing that we can maybe touch on a little bit, without kind of giving away too much info, is menu pricing. We're talking about our new menu and kind of menu designs and formattings and kind of science behind it all, but we haven't really touched on what really, like, how much goes into the cost of things, right? People see you obviously have a butcher shop, which would be considered retail, and then you have a restaurant, which we consider is food service. Two totally different things, two totally different profit margins that you want to be looking at. Ideally, profit margins will range depending on your food service establishment. I have people that run a 17 to 20% food cost, which is insanely good. That is more of the fast casual type places. And then I think your typical food cost is somewhere between 25 to 34-ish. Any higher than that, and it gets really rough. As a business owner, as a restaurateur business owner, there's a lot of expenses, man. You have to worry about waste, you have to worry about labor, you have to worry about rent and utilities. And so typically, at a steakhouse, you want to hover about 30% is food cost, right?
Yeah.
So when you folks look at a menu price, you can almost guess that about a third of that right off the top is just what Nicole is paying for it, right? That's not including the butter or oil. That's not including the side dishes. That's not including the plate that may break when that comes on. It's not including the labor to cook it or the gas to light that fire or anything else.
Insurance that you need, and then
right.
Yeah.
And there's so many things. So typically a place like this, and when we had gone through it, we really crunched some numbers and played around with some things. And you did veer on the high side, you in a good way. Sorry for the viewers.
Yeah.
You have a higher food cost than even I would have liked you to have.
Yes.
We're at the end of the day, a business is incorporated to make money for yourself. I think you are more than generous, when you look at your food pricing and your menu pricing and things like that. So, but yeah, just for viewers that are interested, typically if you look at a menu, you could assume, roughly a third of what that menu price is kind of what that plate costs. So, you have to, when we're thinking about, especially putting a composed dish, sometimes the ribeye is a little easier if you're just putting a ribeye kind of a la carte on a plate.
Yeah.
But when we do like a pork chop, right, we have to talk about what the pork chop cost is and what those side dishes might be, right? If you're putting mashed potatoes or asparagus or fries or, whatever, Brussels sprouts, whatever that may be, garnishes, you have to, again, you got to incorporate your labor and your fixed costs and your utilities and rent and all those things. And when you start adding up, when you break it down ounce wise, it's only 25 cents here and $1 so there and, yada, yada, yada. But when you add 20 of those up, and you got a plate that's costing you, $15, you got to charge 45.
Yeah.
Because when you're done paying the chef to cook it, when you're done paying your rent, when you're done paying everything, you're as a restaurateur business owner, you're probably only walking away with 10% of that.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah. 100%.
So
it's a good breakdown, and I think insight too to just the methodology behind menus and just even how we view them and how we're pricing them out and what
like I said, it's always fascinated me. It's intrigued me. I love talking about it. I love educating people on it.
You're so good at that.
I myself love to be educated on it. I am nowhere near some of my counterparts and kind of how they dissect menus and things like that. I've been, again, I my background is we were cutting meat I was doing that for about 15 years. I've only been at Newport for 4. That's when I really started digging into a lot of this.
Yeah.
I did have some food background and did have a little bit of knowledge, but when you talk about like those Chuck McDaniels, man, you want to talk about like menu dissection and like the science behind it. Like that guy is on another planet.
We're gonna have to get Chuck down here. I think too.
Chuck's
like,
too busy to get on a
Chuck's
podcast.
Yeah, he's not too busy to drive to Pebble Beach. But yeah, I'm excited because I think that like in our next episodes, we're gonna be able to dive into a lot of other different topics that
Yeah.
kind of go into it. I know we've talked in the past, and this to kind of throw out a little bit of a teaser, but we had someone from Greater Omaha that came out
Yeah.
and was interested in doing a podcast with us and talking about just the real American farmer. Even
For sure.
earlier in the episode when we were talking about Creekstone Farms that was purchased by, and I believe it was the Chinese. I think you said Brazil or China.
It's one of those.
But
JBS is the biggest beef conglomerate, biggest beef company in the world.
Yeah.
Biggest beef producer, I should say.
Yeah.
They are a Brazilian-owned company.
Brazilian? Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think, if I recall correctly,
I think Creekstone is a Chinese
company.
owned.
Yeah. And so we had somebody from Greater Omaha here who was talking about just the American farmer and just kind of how they have not, made that decision. They've kind of kept it, in-house just with her.
They're so great.
They are. And so we're excited to have him out. He said he'd come out and join us. So
Yeah, I will talk to him. I don't want to throw his name out quite just yet.
Not yet.
I will talk to him. He's got a whole nother plethora of knowledge. Super, super, super cool guy. But yeah, Greater Omaha, and again, I can go down this rabbit hole, but I'll give you a little tidbit. Privately owned, and they're still a $2-3 billion company, and they're considered small in the beef world.
Yeah.
But they are privately owned. The owner, president, CEO, is still there. God, I forgot his name. Something Davis. But and I met him. I had the luxury of going to Greater Omaha last year. I don't know if you know this. The Newport Meat, an old president of ours, actually left Newport Meat to become the new president of Greater Omaha. He's still there, Mike Drury.
I heard that.
Yeah, and so that's just really been, we've always had a great relationship with Greater Omaha because of what they do and who they are. But I think that just solidified the relationship even more.
For sure.
And yeah, it's so cool to see what they did last year. When I was there, it's just so cool to see how they operate and how they work. It is such a small kind of footprint in the greater scheme of things, but for the amount of stuff that they do and who they service and how they service them, they do such a phenomenal job.
That's fantastic. Well, we'll have to have you reach out
Yeah.
to the name to not be mentioned and have them come out. We're going to be continuing to jump on here and kind of bring up some more topics, things that are either current or that we're going to be going into
Yeah.
or even launching for the restaurant. And so we're excited. We're happy that you guys joined us. Don't forget to log on and watch us at Butcher Shop Talk on YouTube. We also have our Instagram and that we will be posting videos. And so we're going to be excited because we'll have some special guest appearances and maybe you never know, we might turn around the camera and get Oscar on here so while he's eating some Brussels sprouts. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a good rest of your night.